Hey everybody, this is Hector with the Faith and Fandom podcast. Thank you for joining with us. And today we have our guest, Dr. David Powers. Take it away.
Hey, it's good to be here. I'm glad to join Hector on this playground setting and watching the kids play while we sweat.
That's the description of my life. So tell us who you are.
Well, I am a little bit of everything, and some of it successful and some of it not. Most recent thing, trying my hand at being an author and eventually a best-selling author, and trying to use what I geek out about, what I nerd out about, Game of Thrones, zombies, whatever it is, and to find a way to make some money with that and actually reach more people.
So how many books have you written?
15 right now.
15. Holy
15
crap.
different books on all kinds of different subjects.
I was about to say, you've got a little bit of everything. Give me a gamut. Like, what have you written your books on?
All right, I've got my travel books, my quest to climb the 7 summits. I haven't done Everest yet, but I've got a couple travel books based on that. Let's see, I've got some fiction books that I've published, which not very big sellers. Mainly just, some of us write fiction for therapy, kind of. And I've got a big series of Bible books that I'm working on. The Complete Medical Bible. I'm actually going all the way through the Bible, looking at medical references and trying to find out what that is in real life. Like, an issue of blood, it might say here, and what was that? What condition was that? And my newest one, Game of Thrones versus the Bible.
So, Game of Thrones versus the Bible. Awesome. So, I take it you're a fan of Game of Thrones?
Oh, yeah, yep. But if there's any purists out there, I've not read the books. I'm a fan of the screen version so far.
I think my wife tried to read one of the books, and it's one of those things like Lord of the Rings, like those things that, like, I know I should be reading the books, but just for a sheer time's sake, I haven't quite done it. Like, I started The Hobbit, and I think I made it into the first song, and I was just talking with a friend the other day about how much she loves Lord of the Rings books, and I'm just like, yeah. I only watched the third movie for the second time last week. I didn't watch Return of the King for the second time until like last week.
Oh.
I watched it in theaters the day it came out, like Christmas 10, 12, 13 years ago, and then I watched it again last week.
And I'm afraid our geek cred's going down.
Yeah. Shh. Trust me, we make up for it in other areas. Why write a book specifically on Game of Thrones?
Well, a while back, I had a good friend. We were going down the bookstore aisle in Powell's. It's this huge indie bookstore in Portland.
Oh, I love, man. There's a good scene in that in Blue Like Jazz.
Oh, yeah. Yep. And it is just like that, except more awesome. And we were going down the aisle, the science fiction aisle, and we were just talking to each other saying, have you read this? Have you read this? This is good. And some of the books I was pointing out, he looked at me and he said, how can you be a Baptist and like this stuff? And, he was a Christian too and liked this stuff. And it's just, I realized, a lot of this stuff is in the Bible, just changed the names. And so I started looking through the Bible with more of a critical eye. Like the stuff people fuss at me about for looking at on Game of Thrones. All that stuff's in the Bible and some of it even worse. I mean, you could draw so many plot lines from the Bible just for new Game of Thrones episodes, books. If George R.R. Martin gets stumped a bit, then we can just add to it with some stuff from the Bible.
So with that, like, what specific, for the folks that haven't seen the book yet, what areas do you cover? Like, what stories? What's your focus just in it?
Well, the main focus, I started at Genesis 1, just going through there, looking verse by verse for things that I thought were weirder or more violent or even more sexual than what was on the Game of Thrones show. And, there's things on there like God killing a guy for masturbating, just pimps and prostitutes and things. And we're talking Bible heroes doing this stuff. And it's crazy. And so there's also a good chapter, though, comparing Jon Snow and Jesus Christ. So many weird similarities.
There are a lot of weird similarities, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, from the words above their death cross, so to speak, to the way they died.
Oh, yeah, that I remember thinking that at that point.
Yeah, and interesting. I mean, somebody may fuss at me from the religious point of view about this, but when I saw the Passion of the Christ, and I was seeing them torture Christ, and just the feeling like that hurts my heart to see that kind of feeling. I felt the same way.
Same way when John was killed.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, it was there. It definitely was, and John isn't exactly Jesus or anything in a lot of areas, but there are you can definitely tell he's the Christian symbol of a lot of what goes on in Game of
Oh yeah,
Thrones.
yep.
Um, but with the you said you might catch flack from the purists. Um, how do you feel about the fact that we're in uncharted territory with the show, that we're having episodes made of stuff that's not written yet?
Oh, I like it. It puts us on even ground.
It puts
Yep. It's the same way with The Walking Dead because I've read ahead in the comics, and when I watch it with my parents, I sit there and I say, well, yeah, this guy's going to die soon, or but and so I like the uncharted territory.
Do you feel like that maybe HBO should have held up and like waited for George to finish?
No, I think George needs to hurry up before he gets too old and dies. If not, HBO should just keep plowing ahead.
Well, I mean, we've only got what, like 8 episodes left total.
Yep, it's going to be sad.
So you wrote this one specifically for Game of Thrones. Who's your favorite Game of Thrones character?
Arya. Yeah, she's just awesome. If she was older and I was younger, it'd be my dream woman.
Okay, I've got a niece that looks exactly like her,
Yeah.
and it's scary. Every time we're watching the show, all I see is my niece, which is cool in some areas, but then it like disturbs me. Like if I see my niece like coming at me sneakily, I'm like, I don't want to die.
With a toy sword.
With the toy sword, I'm just like, nope. So, just to ask this, still on the Game of Thrones talk, how do you think the show's gonna end? How do you think the story's gonna end? Like at the end of the day, there's an Iron Throne, someone sitting in it. Who that?
Yeah, the way it would just be perfect for me would be Jon Snow sitting on the throne with Daenerys sitting right beside him.
Maybe if they like transplant the Dragon Glass throne, and put them both in there.
That would be very awesome.
But aren't they technically brother and sister?
Well, yeah, but the Targaryens are kind of weird about this stuff anyway, and I'm kind of
It's
imagining.
not like they're not Lannisters or anything.
Yeah. I mean, they're more separated than Jaime and Cersei, so I think we're on okay ground with that one. But that stuff's in the Bible too.
That stuff is in the Bible. So how are you, like, what are you doing to promote your book?
I did a big pre-order rush as soon as the season started, and the book just came out last week. And so, got a few pre-orders and hopefully generating some buzz from that. And I'm going to be sending out some review copies, that kind of thing, just to generate more buzz and even some good or bad reviews.
Okay. Do you have any plans for anything else like this?
Oh, yeah. I mean, in the book, this first book, I've only tackled a couple of chapters, and only 2 books of the Bible. I only got through Genesis and partway through Exodus, and I've found some crazy stuff in some of the other Bible books, and so I'd love to eventually go through the entire Bible, just saying, hey, this looks like a Game of Thrones plotline. Yeah.
Well, that's what I did with the Deadpool chapter in the 3rd book, was like, because if you remember when Deadpool was coming out, everybody was, pooping on the collective cornflakes of, you shouldn't watch this, and I fully understand that. But yes, I pointed out, look, here are 4 stories that are crazier than anything that's in Deadpool.
Yeah.
And so, what do you hope for people to be able to take away from this? Like, when they read this, like, outside of just pointing out the crazy similarities or over the top aspects of it.
Yep.
Like, when somebody reads this book, what else do you think, or what do you want them to take away from it?
I've got 2 goals, one for the Christians, one for non-Christians. For the Christians that read it, I don't think they're going to read it unless they already like the Game of Thrones, or somebody in their family does. And so I want them to read it and be comfortable watching the show if they like it. Just knowing that, some of the stuff's in the Bible, and just because it's on a screen doesn't, I just hate being made to feel guilty about that kind of thing. For the non-Christians, though, I hope they read it and it makes them interested in the Bible. That they'll want to read the Bible more just to see some of the crazy stuff, and we know who that might lead to,
Well, even with the Deadpool thing, I mentioned that, like, there was a couple that stopped at a Comic-Con, and they're saying, how can you have Deadpool in the Bible? And, and I told them, and they're like, there's not stuff like that in the Bible. So I straight up, like, read them the sections that I was talking about in Deadpool. They're like, and they just walk away and say, maybe I should read the Bible. But, I'm not saying you need to read the Bible for just, glorification of violence or sketchy, inappropriate relationships. But, I think people have a very narrow view of what's there and what you can learn from.
Yeah.
Outside of the Game of Thrones book, what's the book of yours you recommend the most?
Rapid skill development. Um, Wrote a book based on learning things rapidly. Malcolm Gladwell talked about that in his book, the 10,000 Hours Concept.
Yes, yes, I've heard that.
And basically, you've got to spend 10,000 hours doing something before you can be an expert. And I don't have time for that. And most other people don't. If I want to go out and learn the guitar or how to windsurf or become an expert in 14th century Portuguese pottery, then I want to do it faster. And so that's why I wrote the book. It's a process I use with my clients that just gets them through things faster. And you can basically become an entry level expert in something, I mean, so quick if you follow the process.
Okay. So when I met you, I heard about you through Robin Roberts.
Yep.
When I was at Heroes Con, my first year doing Fandom, and he was telling me about you and Kapow. Why don't you tell me about what Kapow was slash maybe is slash?
All right. And yeah, I heard about you the same way. Robin came back from that con with your book, your first book, and gave it to me, and I was mad when I saw it. I was mad and jealous because you were kind of doing something, or had already done something I was wanting to do. And so, I had to kind of stuff that down and realize that, you were glorifying Christ and doing what you were called to do, and just because you beat me to it didn't make you evil. But I love the book, and then we met. And at Kapow Church, though, started the church about 7 years ago, and it ended up eventually being known as Kapow Church, and focusing mainly on bringing pop culture and Christianity together, and making people feel welcome if they did nerd out on stuff. And also, it was a neat place where we could show up for church, and before church starts, we may talk about Game of Thrones or Deadpool or The Walking Dead, and it's not like that wasn't allowed. We just did it and had fun. And so one of the things we did with that was start doing church services at cons. And Robin Roberts was a heavy supporter with this. Matter of fact, he was even the guy that told me, he said, the first year I did it, he came back and he said, next year you need to have a Captain America shield and pass that sucker around for an offering plate. And he was the first guy to put an offering in that shield. And so I appreciate that from him.
I've not thought of that, but that's a great.
Yeah, you're using my kid's Captain America shield for an offering plate.
I'd probably use a Stormtrooper helmet.
Oh, yeah, there you go. And an empty Stormtrooper helmet upside down. It's just like saying, you guys lost. So Kapow ran for a couple of years, and I was really glad when I moved away to be able to hand that off to Hector and let him continue that. And we had a lot of fun and some really cool church services. And I think the single coolest thing for me with that ever was just standing up to preach and there being people out in the audience in costume. I mean, we've had Catwoman, Cinderella, other princesses, superheroes like Iron Man and all that. It's just really cool.
So you recently embarked to Chattanooga, and you closed down Kapow for during that time, right?
Yep.
Now you're back in the region. Is there plans for that to be a thing again, or?
I'm not sure. I'm in this weird transitional place where not quite sure what God wants me to do, and trying to figure that out. And so right now, just I like to write just for a hobby, if nothing else, and so just continue the writing. And I'm actually getting heavier into role-playing games like Dungeons & Dragons and Savage Worlds. And so I've got some friends that are actually, they have a ministry where they're using that to reach people for Christ. And so I may get into that a little more.
Is that, who is that that's doing that?
Daniel Fisher. He's associated with Game Church, but this isn't really a Game Church ministry. Yeah. I think he's setting up tabletops, possibly at Gen Con. I'm not sure about that.
Okay. There's also a local group here that's doing tabletop and like Skyrim stuff.
Yeah.
On a similar, they're called a Game Changer.
Okay. I'll have to check those guys out.
They've been to your, they've been to a geek church, nerd church, at XCon before, but it's Brianna and Heenan Edwards.
Okay.
Are kind of running it up, but they're in your region.
Yeah. See, that's what I love. I mean, just thinking, man, if I had tiniest little bit of effect on somebody else doing something.
Yeah. Well, it's cool thing with that, what you said about just because you did it first doesn't mean you're the bad guy. So at SuperCon recently, I ran into a voice actor that does voice acting for Five Nights at Freddy. named Andy Field.
Yeah.
Andy Field hit me up. He's like, "Look, I didn't come to your panel. I didn't buy anything at your booth, but I like what you're doing." And he said, "I want to start doing what you're doing. I want to do chapels and panel discussions on faith at all these cons that I'm at because he actually travels as a voice actor." And so I just talking with him, I gave him an outline of what I was doing, and he's already got like 6 major cons.
Wow.
With chapels lined up. And it's that thing of, I know when you were wanting to do this and when I started doing this, there wasn't that much going on in this realm, and now
we were the pioneers.
We're definitely in that early stage, because like I give credit to like Hillsong and Delirious for what we call like modern worship now.
Yeah.
Like I fully believe like 99, 2000, Hillsong, Delirious, they're responsible for what the church is doing 20 years later. And I'm cool with the fact that if I don't do this forever or you don't do this forever, that there are people picking this up.
Yeah, we've got like second generation people going on now.
And because like there's this stuff, there's Geeks Under Grace, there's Game Church, there's Geeky Guys for God and Geeky Gals for God, and God Loves Geeks Ministries, and like there's a bunch of people doing this. You've got like the 42 Faith Through Fandom people, out in the Midwest. You've got all these different folks, and then some of these folks just starting new books. So it's a really neat thing to see what God is doing with this.
Hey, you remember those when we were growing up? The churches used to put on those hell houses at Halloween and stuff.
Yeah.
Could you imagine if he did a Five Nights at Freddy Hell House? That'd be so scary. But it would be evangelistic.
Oh my gosh, that would be terrifying.
He could do that at cons.
I'm good. I'm good.
At church, just
man. I have like hardcore beef with those things, and like they seem like a normal thing when I was a teenager, because you just kind of blindly accepted whatever your youth leader told you when you were 16. But like, man, it rubs me wrong every time I see one. And I'm not against it, and I'd probably be more likely to enjoy a Five Nights at Freddy's one than anything else. But
those things probably cause some trauma to kids growing up.
Yeah, well, okay, I live across the street from a church.
Yeah.
Like right now, I live across the street from a traditional, on the far right end of traditional Baptist church, and they have a judgment house every year. And like, literally, I asked my wife, would it be cool if I put scripture signs in the yard for judgment house, because like I want to get like that thing at a 1 John 4 of like, there is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear. It might be Peter. I don't know. I might need to actually look in a Bible, but I just want to put that there is no fear in love, perfect love casts out fear. Fear has to do with judgment. I'm just like, or punishment, and I'm like, don't do this. This is a bad life choice.
Like a reverse protester.
Oh yeah, I want to be a reverse protester, which was really weird. At after I did my thing at Raleigh SuperCon, when I was pulling out to go back to where I was staying, there were protesters on the street corners.
Oh.
And
at DragonCon, we had the screaming preachers out on the street corners.
That's the thing. I can deal with a non-believer not enjoying what we're doing, and I can deal with objective Christians. But when you're on that pharisaical level, like, I'm just likely to flip a table at you.
Yeah.
And like, it's somebody was saying, "Why don't you go there and talk to them?" I'm like, no. Those
guys don't want to talk to anybody.
And that's the thing. It's not about a conversation or discourse. Or anything like that.
I could see you doing that. Just sitting behind your table at the con, flipping the books off and jumping over the table.
I don't want to, because I've flipped my table before.
Beating somebody with their "Prepare to Meet Thy God" sign.
No, don't encourage that. That's dangerous. So far, we haven't had that many negative altercations, and I want to try and keep it relatively. Like, apparently, like, they only pick on Vincent when I'm gone.
Yeah, he's an easy mark.
He's an easy mark, but like I've only had one guy like literally getting my Kool-Aid, but I think he was mad that God was there, not that it was, whatever. He was mad. That was but then like someone came to Vincent at Heroes Con and was just really ugly
Oh,
to him, and like I went looking for the guy. He described what he looked like, and I wanted to go have an adult
yeah,
conversation with him because I was like, you don't need to be abusive to my people, but
yeah. Yeah, I did a Game Church booth at Dragon Con one year, and I mean, you're talking thousands and thousands of people, and people were so nice. Even we were right across the little aisle from us was a booth selling, I mean, it's hard to describe, like gay leather clothing.
okay.
We're talking male corsets and stuff, and those guys were so nice, and they'd be across the aisle from us. We're handing out Bibles. They're over there helping people try on corsets and chaps and stuff like that, and then they would look at the people and say, "Hey, why don't you check out those Game Church folks? They're giving away Bibles." And by the end of it, we were really good friends with them.
And that's the thing. That's what I love about con life and artist alley and that kind of stuff of what can develop from that. Because like I still run into people that remember you from giving out Game Church Bibles at in your bags at shows. Like there's a friend of ours, Jordan Clark. I'm not sure if you remember him, but he's from the Myrtle Beach area, and he would always come to X or Apocalypse Comics for Free Comic Book Day
Yeah,
and stuff like that. And he remembers you specifically as being the guy that gave him the Game Church Bible.
yeah.
And
This is my branding. It's the red beard and the bald head.
it's the red beard and the bald head. So you sold your comic book collection.
Yeah, my
Uh,
second one.
your second one.
Yeah,
And how many comics did you sell when you sold that?
I think it was around 120,000.
120,000 comic books.
See, my first collection I sold back in the '90s and paid for all my undergrad education, and that was my childhood collection. And then this one I had bought. I couldn't stop collecting, so I bought another big one, and sold that before I moved. Sold it the day of the opening day of XCon.
I just remember you know before the show had even really started, you walked up, said somebody had bought your whole booth.
Yeah,
Are you starting that back up again? What are you doing?
yeah. I'm back up. I've got about 6 long boxes already full. I can't stop. It's an addiction.
That's crazy because like I don't know if I've got a medical filing cabinet, but like I don't know if I've gotten that much because I don't keep anything.
Yeah, I'm curating my collection now. I'm specifically keeping certain ones, like Tarzan. I grew up on Tarzan, and so I'm going back trying to get a full collection of all the old Dell and Gold Key editions.
Yeah.
And so that's a huge chunk of it, and anything Viking related. But just keeping certain things now.
All right. So currently, if I'm not mistaken, like we've had two comic book shops close in the Myrtle Beach region.
Yeah,
I blame that on you leaving.
it was.
It's all your fault. But going forward, like and you had a comic book shop
Yeah,
so before you left, so that's three that have gone down.
the world's coming apart.
The world's coming apart. In this region, in the Myrtle Beach region where you are, what do you think needs to happen to make a thriving comic shop? Because there are still comic shops. Because you've got like a Coastal Comics and Powers Comics and
Yep.
Player's Choice. So you've still got three sturdy options in the area.
Yeah, I think there were just too many at one time. And now we've got Coastal on the south end, Player's Choice on the north. Powers, they're out in Conway, right?
They're in Conway. Yeah,
And, I'll have
and
to
I
check them
heard
out.
they're very apocalypse
Oh, really?
esque.
Okay.
Because like I heard that they're the only one now that still gives you everything on Free Comic Book Day.
Oh, see, I will have to check them out.
Yeah.
I always appreciated Chad doing that.
Yeah, Chad was crushing it, and then like, oh, wait, I forgot what show it was at, but recently we were at a show, and Rosa saw Chad. She's like, "Dad, it's the man! It's the one that gives us the comics!" And she freaked out, and I was like, "Go say hey," because my kid still appreciates like it. My oldest is such a little adult now, and she still loves the fact that Chad would have that area they could play in.
Oh, yeah.
And that she would get so many comics on Free Comic Book Day because she came back from Free Comic Book Day this year completely underwhelmed.
Yeah.
But
I've got 5 kids, and I take all of them. And so, if you only get 2 or 3 comics per person.
you still, yeah,
Yeah, like my kid behind me in line, I'm like, all right, you want this one. You want that one.
well, that was the beautiful thing about Apocalypse. You got one of everything, so we'd
Yeah.
walk out of there with like 5 things at 70.
Yep. No, I think Apocalypse had it going on. I mean, they had the kids area, And sometimes I wanted to sit down and watch cartoons there. But Coastal is the one I'm most familiar with because they're on my end of the beach, and they seem to be doing pretty good. I mean, they got the gaming area. Drew's pretty nice. He's pretty cool.
Yeah, they were really nice. I did Myrtle Beach Comic Con for 2 years.
Yeah.
And
they're just going to have to, now that there aren't as many shops, it should make the money a little better. But they're just going to have to do something to appeal to all audiences. I mean, Barnes & Noble does it. They got the little Thomas the Train place set, and I'll park my kids there, and then I'll go get a coffee and that kind of thing. So maybe a combination coffee comic book shop.
I literally on the last podcast I did, we talked about that's kind of like my end game of something I would like to do, because our church is we're not struggling, but we could tell as we're saying in our church that it feels like we're marching around Jericho and the walls are about to fall, and we don't know if they're going to fall in the city or on us. So we don't know which way these walls are about to collapse. But like my executive pastor will say to me frequently, hey, if things go wrong, you can go ahead and get ready to make that comic book shop.
Oh yeah.
So
you've been to the that coffee shop in Greensboro. I forget the name
Geeksboro.
of it. Yeah, Geeksboro, and it's not a coffee shop comic book store, but it's 2 doors down from one.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the closest thing I've seen, and they've got the theater room and everything.
Yeah.
And
now, if they combined both of those into one building,
oh my gosh, unstoppable.
Yeah, they really would be. I feel like it's got to be kind of frustrating that they're not in the same shopping center. But so, what's next in your world? What are you doing?
First off, I'm going to stop having kids. We've grown out of the minivan now. And so that's number one.
Are you in like a 15-passenger van now?
We need to buy a church bus. We're going to upgrade to that at some point. No, next for me on this front, I want to try to get into some more movies. I need some more movie cred. And so that's...
So for those that don't know you, David has been in some movies. Tell us about the movies you've been in.
I've been in a couple indie zombie movies. Never as a zombie. I don't want the makeup. I want to kill zombies. I was a bad guy, kind of like Negan, but not so... I didn't have a bat. In this one indie zombie movie, The Last of Our Days. And then I was in Divergent, the Divergent movie, which I'm afraid that series kind of folded, I think. I was hoping I was going to be in the next one.
Yeah, I think I heard, or at least saw something online, that they're not even going to finish the films.
That's sad, because I was hoping to be in that. But yeah, my goal, I don't want to be a big-time actor or even full-time. I just want to be... there's a guy named Tate. He was in The Equalizer. He was in Jurassic World. He's this big old guy, mixed martial arts fighter that has a handlebar mustache.
Yeah.
And if you know who he is, you'll see him in all kinds of movies. That's what I want to do. I just want to be a recognized featured extra where people, they're like, oh, that's that bald bearded guy again.
You want to be the pre-Machete Danny Trejo.
Exactly. In the credits, just my name, and it might say like Outlaw Biker number 3. Or guy who died on bar floor. That's all I want.
Is this a good region for that?
Not as good as where I was. In Chattanooga, I was just a couple hours from Atlanta. And, so much stuff going on in basically the eastern Hollywood. Most of the Marvel Comics movies and all that filming there. And this area is still good. I've got some friends that are getting into stuff. You just have to drive a little further.
Yeah. Do you go to Wilmington for stuff? Or
I haven't yet. I've not been in anything in Wilmington, just in Atlanta.
Wilmington, I hear, is like the closest thing to Atlanta we have.
Yeah.
Because still just driving around, you can see some stuff. Like even like every time I drive into Wilmington, I see that one place from Iron Man 3.
Yeah.
Like that big battle place.
And Charleston's picking up too.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah, just not as much geek type stuff.
No. So what do you like outside of Game of Thrones? What are you into right now? Like you've mentioned the D&D stuff. You mentioned obviously you do into Game of Thrones. What else are you into?
Yeah, big focus for me right now is revamping my homeschool. Now that I'm getting back into D&D, going to revamp our homeschool for my older boys and make it a little more game oriented, and just to keep things interesting for them. A lot more. Just for instance, some of the fictional stuff they're doing. They're studying analyzing literature right now, and so I'm going to have them start writing some of their own stories. Forget analyzing it. We're going to write our own and then analyze that along with the other stuff. And so that's a big focus for me right now. And man, what's coming out soon? We got the Thor movie coming out.
Everything's like in November.
Yeah. I just started watching Mr. Robot season 2 on Amazon this morning.
Okay.
I like that. It's almost like a hacker Fight Club feel.
I get that vibe. I haven't watched it yet. Um, I gave away all of my Mr. Robot stuff from Loot Crate. Um, but okay, but you'd recommend it?
Oh yeah, yeah, it's pretty cool, especially if you liked Fight Club or like. Well, I was a big Hackers fan back when Angelina Jolie was like 15 years old.
Yeah,
So just kind of like seeing something that's modern based on that,
yeah. Okay.
or similar anyway.
So with your books, are you planning to do Comic Cons or anything?
Probably. I'm gonna follow your example and maybe start trying to set up something like that. Just no immediate plans for it yet.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm big into prepping right now though.
Okay.
Not crazy prepping like 10 years of food supply, that kind of thing. But I love the skills involved in that, and so kind of getting into the realistic apocalyptic stuff.
Okay. Which there's a nice apocalyptic photo of you and your family
Oh yeah.
in your book.
Yep. Yep. And the eclipse is coming Monday, so I mean the whole world may end Monday.
Yeah, there's that. Or we might get heroes level superpowers.
Yep.
I'm planning to drop as many heroes references as humanly possible. I mean, not that many people even remember Heroes at this point.
Yeah. That show. The only thing that really scares me about that is if I got a stupid power. Yeah.
So what would be the best power you would hope for?
Oh, for me, it would either be super intelligence, which I'm halfway there,
Halfway there.
or I don't know, telepathy, telekinesis, something like that. I want something I can hide, and that way nobody's going to dissect me.
Okay, that's smart. You're even thinking ahead in your strategy with that.
Yeah.
What would you think is the worst power to get?
The worst. I forget what issue it was. I read a comic one time where there was an Inhuman in the comic, and his hands were on fire. It's like they didn't go out, so that means hands were constantly on fire. So I mean, good luck having a normal relationship or reading a book or anything. Stuck with fire hands. You make friends with Iceman, because that just would be horrible.
I'm pretty sure I would want invulnerability.
Yeah.
Just because, it's that whole catch-22 of if you fly but you're not invulnerable, you're going to break your legs.
Yeah.
Or
now, are you talking a healing power like Wolverine or more of a Power Man type?
I'm talking more of like I can't be hurt. That'd be great. That's I don't want the Jack Harkness thing of like I can be hurt and not die. I can't be hurt. That'd be great. I think probably the worst power though. Have you seen Dr. Horrible's sing along blog?
Yeah.
I don't want to be moist, because moist says at my most BA I make people want to take a shower, and I feel like I'm already there. Like I feel like I'm moist like 90% of the time, and I know that a lot of people have like a cringe level reaction to the word moist. So I'm just seeing how many more times I can say moist in this sentence before people will stop listening to this podcast.
It does create a real image, a real visual, a moist image.
I heard that moist is one of the worst words for that, but then also girth is the other one. So then apparently there's a friend of mine was playing a game and the user's name was Moist Girth. Moist Girth. So
neutral
awkward.
evil.
So on a spiritual level, like what are you reading like when you're not prepping and reading through for Game of Thrones stuff? Like what's your reading life like spiritually?
Well, every morning I've got a real strict morning routine that I follow, and part of that is my Bible time. And I used to be in the frame of mind I need to read 10 chapters a day or I'm going to go to hell. But no, now what I do, I read one chapter a day and I try to focus on that, and I'll copy verses. Just trying to really understand what I'm reading. So right now I'm in Job, going back through the Bible again, and almost to the end of Job. I'm at the part now where God puts them all in their place and starts talking to them.
Okay.
Yeah. And last night we wrapped up our last bedtime book for the kids, and so last night we started In a Pit with a Lion on a Snowy Day by Mark Batterson. And I've read that before, but one of my kids is named Benaiah, and so he's really jazzed about that.
Okay. So what's your wife doing now?
She is a full-time mom again. The Amazon warehouse just completely wore her out, and so she's full-time mom and homeschooling again.
Okay. And what are you doing like professionally now? I know you always have like a million irons in the fire.
Yeah. No, my most of my income now comes from keynote lectures. I'll be I'll get dressed up and go speak to a big business group or a medical conference, and which is really interesting because if you see me, bald and red bearded, I really stick out at those things. Which, once again, it's my branding because nobody forgets the bald guy with the fierce red beard.
Yeah.
Even if they don't remember my name, I don't care. They remember me.
They're gonna remember that guy.
Yep.
So you keynote speak, like what's your big topics of?
I've got this really great one on goal setting, and it's all about getting punched in the face. Because most people talk about goal setting, you set goals, you try to live the goals. Well, my whole thing is based on it's a Mike Tyson quote.
Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth.
Exactly.
I was about to say that.
Yep. My goal setting program is based on planning for the getting punched in the face part. Not so much just setting these beautiful dreams and trying to plan them out, but what happens when they get screwed up.
Okay.
That's my main one.
Any other books coming?
No, I'm probably going to work on revising some of them first. I've got some that have been out for a while, and they're in need of revising. The Rapid Skill book, I've got some case studies and things now that I want to include. It was shy on examples in the first edition, and so now I want to write a few chapters based on what people have done. Yeah, and more pictures.
More pictures.
Yeah,
because Amazon reviewers like pictures. So, what would you give advice, like, if, with what you have in your books, with what you have in your motivational things, with what you just mentioned with, like, Mike Tyson and everything else, for the people that are listening, what's the one key piece of life advice that you can give away free right here?
No moderation. Just no moderation in anything you do. And of course, the caveat being, if you're doing bad stuff, moderate, please.
Moderate.
But, if you're going to do something, whether it's having a booth at a con or writing a book or geeking out on role-playing games, just go all out. I mean, just go ahead and experience that. Too many things in life, and most of my regrets in life, are based on stopping out of fear or a lack of money. There are so many reasons that most of the time we just invent. And no moderation. Just go all out. Yeah, I did. I got 5 kids now to prove it.
It's that no moderation thing.
Yeah.
All right. So when you were in Chattanooga, what was your favorite thing there?
Oh, we went hiking so much. With homeschooling, we actually would go hiking 2 or 3 times a week, and just call it science class, botany, whatever you want to do. I mean, we would just go hit the mountains and started finding some really excellent water holes. And so when summer hit and it was warm enough, we would go out and go swimming in waterfalls.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, they're full of them up there.
Yeah. Now you go swimming here at the beach, and that's the only thing I didn't like about here at the beach is, most of the places you want to go swimming, things will try to eat you.
Yeah. That, and then somebody from my town somebody from Lumberton got a flesh-eating bacteria from here a couple weeks ago, and they're losing a limb.
Yep.
And it's okay. Lumberton's we never get known for the good stuff. I remember when I was a kid, the only thing Lumberton was known for was the place Michael Jordan's dad was killed.
Oh, wow.
And then we became the place, recently the flood place.
Yeah.
And then recently we were on SNL because a Lumberton woman robbed a Sprint store with an AK-47.
Hey, no moderation.
No moderation. See, she got it mixed up. She didn't finish the book.
Do you guys have a comic store?
No.
So they need a comic store coffee shop.
That's where I'm at.
Yeah.
There's not one in a 30-mile radius of me.
So all your customers there.
And
you have a college right in town, right?
We have a college in Pembroke. It's about 13 miles.
Okay.
Which, to be fair, there was a card shop, just a tabletop gaming shop, that ran for 2 full years, run by college students, and they didn't sell anything.
Oh, see, that proves it right there that you could...
They literally had no market. They sold snacks. They had table space for gaming, a few magic packs, in a case.
Yeah.
And they sold snacks. Bottles of water and chips. And they made rent for 2 years.
Wow. Yeah, so if you had coffee and sodas and comics...
Now, that's the thing. I've seen a comic shop fail, or a coffee shop fail there, but they also didn't accommodate collegiate hours. If you do something in Pembroke, you've got to accommodate ridiculous hours to make it function.
If you open up an old lady tea shop, it's not really going to work, but
no.
You open up a decent coffee shop the college kids are going to want to come to. Yep.
So I asked you like your life advice. What's your spiritual advice for?
Oh, my spiritual advice. Find someone to follow the example of. And it doesn't have to be just one person. And it doesn't always have to be a good example. I mean, I'm, of course, named after David in the Bible, and there are good and bad things, and I can learn from both. And so, just delve into the Bible and find an example to follow. And that's really helped me a lot.
Okay. Like, so you're saying find a Bible example?
Yeah.
Okay.
And well, I mean, that's now that you mentioned that, I mean, find somebody also that can mentor you spiritually. I mean, of course, I guess in the spiritual world we call it discipling.
Yeah.
But find somebody that has already been there for a while and can educate you in the same way. Good mistakes, bad mistakes, the things that fail upward and the things that you should never, ever do again. Yeah, because, I mean, oftentimes we just look to our parents for that, and our parents aren't always the best examples, but what's even worse is that we're, even as adults, not willing to listen to our parents a lot of times. Because, we've seen them in the good and bad.
Yeah. I struggle with that. I don't think I ever actually listened to my parents. And now I'm on the far end where like my kids like are militant. Like I was like, no, you listen. I don't know how it's going to pan out in the years to come, but So what are you outside of geek stuff and TV? What's your entertainment life like right now?
Mostly just binge watching stuff with my wife. I mean, we identify a few key shows that we can enjoy together. Because she doesn't geek out on, well, she's a Trekkie, and so I don't consider that true geekage.
Oh. By the way, Brent Spiner,
yeah,
like took a picture of my booth at SuperCon and said "fantastic,"
yeah,
and walked away. And like I went to go talk to him about it later, and his PR person wouldn't let me near him.
Really?
Like I was like, yeah, but you just came to my booth and took a picture. And I was like, did you want to talk about anything? Or I was like, and they charge $35 a picture. I want to be like, well, you owe me $35.
Yeah.
Or something.
Yeah, I don't ever want to be so famous that I have a gatekeeper that keeps people away from me. I mean, other than my kids.
Yeah.
But, wow.
But it's like, he was sitting right there and he couldn't hear me because he was talking to Geordie LaForge. But I was like, "Dang it, gatekeeper! He came to my booth. This is my window." But you don't count Trekkies as real geeks.
Yeah, mainly just because I'm not one. So.
I've gotten the most flack for not having Star Trek.
Yeah.
And Faith and Fandom than anything else. I used to get flack for Star Wars, but I'm two books later. They've let that go.
Yeah.
I published a Star Wars titled book, and I even released book 4 on May the 4th.
Yeah.
So, like, you can get off me now.
Maybe I'll write a chapter for you on why Star Trek is the complete opposite example of the New Heaven and New Earth. The Star Trek utopia as the bad example.
I'm probably going to do a Star Trek chapter. I did a superhero Bible camp for Camp Grace this summer.
Yeah.
It was just called Not of This World, and it was sci-fi themed, but they let me go ham on it. So, like, we did a chapel session comparing spiritual growth to tribbles.
Yeah.
And, like, the whole thing out of Peter where it talks about if you have these things in continuing measure, like, keep adding to your faith.
Yeah.
I was like, your faith needs to be triples.
Yeah, exactly.
Because as soon as they stopped eating and growing, they died. And I'm like, that's you.
Yep.
Do that.
So there are a few good things about Star Trek. Yeah.
I grew up watching it. I just never was impassioned about it.
Yeah, me neither. And the thing that's always bugged me is it seemed like every time they stalled on a plot line, they would just do a time travel thing. And they don't use time travel like Doctor Who does, where it's like essential and necessary and done well. It's like, oh, let's just go back in time and rewrite so we can do new plot lines. I mean, the whole new movies are based on that.
Yeah, the fact that they went time travel in the first movie bugged the snot out of me.
Yeah, yep. That's why I quit watching that Enterprise show that was on for a while.
Man, I really enjoyed. I enjoyed that maybe because just Jolene Blaylock and
the dude from Quantum Leap.
Yeah.
I can't think of his name now.
I could have told you that 30 seconds ago. Scott Bakula.
There you go. Okay.
But he was also Chuck's dad.
Yeah.
So he was Chuck's dad, and he was Scott Bakula.
Yeah.
I mean, he was Sam Beckett. And I wanted to. I watched it just for him and Jolene Blaylock.
Yeah,
And
I tried to like it, and I like the uniforms. But you remember when they did that time travel Nazi thing, and that just I dropped it.
man, I think generally, unless you are a time travel vehicle of a show, just stop. Don't do time travel.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I don't know if you ever remember, like, if you ever watched the Justice League cartoons, but like they did time travel episodes with that, and I'm just like,
Oh yeah, and they were in World War II for a while.
with Vandal Savage.
Yeah.
And I'm like, stop.
Oh, that's why I quit watching the Challengers. Or not Challengers. The new one that's on CW with Rip Hunter.
Oh, League of Legends.
Yeah, because I so wanted to like that one too, and the time travel thing just bugged me too much.
I got to be super honest. I don't think I made it past the first 2 episodes.
Yeah. I only held on out of loyalty to Amy and Rory from
No,
Doctor
that's
Who.
exactly why I started League of Legends. No, Legends of Tomorrow.
That's it. Okay.
League
yeah.
of Legends is an
See,
app game.
It was so horrible we couldn't even
Yeah.
blocked out the name.
I have a T-shirt because the beautiful people at CW22 in Charlotte always give me shirts. Plug. But no, I have a Legends of Tomorrow shirt. It's just, but I bought into it, hoping solely for the fact that Rory would do something good.
Yeah. Yep.
And I'm sure, and he's not even been consistent from what I hear. Like, he's been off the show.
Yeah. Yep.
Um,
and he was kind of whiny. Not as whiny as Iron Fist whiny, but I don't know. He was always griping about things, and then he go do the same thing. It just bugged
yeah.
me.
Which I've got I'm 2 episodes behind on Broadchurch, the last 2 episodes, and I have this deep. By the time y'all listen to this, you'll already know the answer. So I have this. Have you watched Broadchurch?
Only the first season.
Man,
Yeah.
Season 2 escalates.
Yeah, I'm
Ooh.
behind on that. Is that on Netflix yet?
It's maybe on Amazon,
Okay.
but Season 2 is impressive. Not as impressive, but it was. Did you ever watch Torchwood?
Yeah, love Torchwood.
Eve. Well, the main lady from Torchwood is the main character on Broadchurch Season 2.
Okay.
Yeah,
I always liked her.
Yeah. But Broadchurch, I love the fact that they had a decent minister fictional character.
Yeah.
With Rory.
Yeah.
Because most fictional pastors are just jerks.
Oh yeah.
Or
Yep.
they're the bad guy. And it's like the minute I started watching Broadchurch, within the first episode, and I saw Rory was a pastor, I'm like, oh, he's gonna be the criminal. Don't do it. Why? Oh, and I had this, deep in my soul thing, like they're gonna make Rory a bad guy, and they're gonna make Rory a child molesting killer.
Yeah.
And
finally, there's a child molesting show that a drama that it wasn't the religious person that was doing it.
he was actually a good guy. And then I had that thought in Season 2, and you know what? They even made him better in Season 2.
Yeah.
Like, just some great stuff happened with Season 2, and he got to prove himself even further. But now, 2 episodes out from the end of the series,
Yeah.
I feel like I'm going to watch the last 2 episodes and find out he's the bad guy in this season. And I don't want that. Like,
Yeah.
I'm literally dreading watching the last 2 episodes because I don't want Rory to be the bad guy. Got to suck it up, though.
Yeah.
All right, so before we get out of here, anything that you've got coming up that people can check out or tune in for or see you at? Or?
No, I'll just give you a plug for the website. I talked about that Rapid Skill book. If you go on my website at callsignredbeard.com, you can actually sign up there and get a mini guide for the Rapid Skill Development book. And so, I hope you enjoy that. If you do or don't, write me. I mean, I can only make things better if the people that didn't like it let me know why. And so check that out. Beyond that, I'm just in transition right now, moving back to the beach, getting used to things again, and just kind of trying to feel out where God wants me to go next.
Okay. And all of your books are listed under your name, right?
Yep.
No surnames or anything, or no.
No, except for the one, but I wrote it under a different name because I didn't want it associated with me.
Good call. Fine. I've got a book in the back of my mind that'll definitely happen.
Yeah.
Like, I'm pretty sure, like, I would be destroyed for even mentioning the idea. I'll tell you about it as soon as I turn this microphone off.
Yeah, mine's like 50 Shades oriented. So.
Oh.
Yeah, I won't. If you happen to buy it, you won't know it's me.
50 Shades of Redbeard. But you can check out Dr. David Powers at callsignredbeard.com, correct?
Yep.
All right. And you can also check him out. He is a guest writer in books 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah.
He did a foreword in book 2, and I know you did the Divergent chapter in book 3, the Vikings chapter in book 4. So you can check out his writing there as well. And you can check out the Bible or Game
Game of Thrones versus the Bible.
Game of Thrones versus the Bible. It's brand new on Amazon, and you can check that out. There'll also be some photos and stuff of that on the Facebook page.
Yeah. And Hector's got 2 chapters in that one.
Am I 2 chapters in that one?
Yeah,
Oh,
2 chapters and the picture.
Oh, snap.
Yep, the Iron Throne picture.
So two of our chapters are in there as well. So I hope you've enjoyed listening to us. Make sure you check out, share this with other people, and you can catch me upcoming at. I'll be roaming around Dragon Con looking lost.
Everyone.
Like everyone. I'll be at Union County Public Library's SuperCon, which is in Monroe, North Carolina on September 9th. I'll be walking around Florence Comic Con on September 10th, just hanging out. And then Bookham, North Carolina, the big Writers Festival thing, which I'm probably going to try and convince you to go do, is September 23rd. And then, you've got Fayetteville Comic Con coming up right after that. So, once again, thank you for taking the time to listen. And this is Hector Mirai and Dr. David Powers. You have a great day.